Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Greymond, and let's get to some questions. So the question I have here is about depersonalization. So by the way, sorry for not answering last week. I was actually, well, it was holidays and we were traveling, so I didn't have a chance to do the show last week. But I'm back this week, and for the depersonalization, first of all, what is it? People who have these types of thoughts are worried about what if everything is not real? Like, what if this is all my imagination? What if my house is not real? What if my boyfriend is not real? What if my parents are not real? What if nothing is real? So, but you have to treat this type of OCD thought just like any other type of OCD thought. There is no difference between this thought or cheating OCD or harm OCD. They're all the same thing. What you're doing is you're focusing on the situation. A random thought came into your mind. It happened to be about depersonalization. Could have been about anything, like just like I said, about harm or about cleaning or anything else. But in your case, depersonalization, and you got scared and you took it seriously. And because you got scared and took it seriously, because it was unexpected thought, this and that, your mind said, she is taking it seriously. This means that the thought is important. This means that she's in danger. Let's send her more of the same thought to protect her. So, by your reaction of fear, you are keeping the thought there, because when the mind sends it to you again react with fear. Your mind again says, oh, okay, must be really important then, since now twice the person has reacted, and so on and so forth. And the more you react with fear, the more ingrained it becomes in your mind that this thought is equals danger, you know? And it doesn't, the whole trick of OCD that you need to know is that the mind itself doesn't have the ability, that part of the mind doesn't have the ability to tell the difference when the thought is actually important or when it isn't. It really doesn't have that ability. It's only looking to you to see your reaction, and by your reaction it judges that if the thought is important or not. So even if it wanted to, it couldn't tell the difference. So the feelings that are coming with this thought, the anxiety that is coming, it's all automatic, and it's coming from a place where that place doesn't know if the thing is important or not. It's automatically sent from a machine, let's say. Do you know what I mean? The machine that is your mind is auto sending this thought. This thought means nothing, because it doesn't, if it did mean something, it wouldn't know it. Do you know what I'm saying? So there is no there's no need to believe these types of like thoughts. They are anxiety driven, and it's the anxiety that usually scares people and keeps them in this loop. Because when you get a thought, if say for example you got the same exact thought and chose not to react to it, what would happen is that your mind would probably maybe send it to you again, make sure that you didn't react the second time as well, and then never send it to you after that. Never send it to you anymore, because you're choosing not to react. So obviously it means that the thought is not important, not dangerous, all this stuff. No need to send it to you again. So you have to get out of this, you really need to focus on how you are reacting to these types of thoughts. So anything to do with depersonalization, you want to make sure you're saying, I'm not paying attention to it. You can talk to your mind as if it was a person. Actually talk to it. If you're feeling your anxiety rising and all this additional stuff, right, like all the feelings and the emotions that come along with the anxiety going up, say to your mind, hey, listen, this is not important to me. Stop messing with me. Stop sending this to me. And when you're saying that, when you're talking to your mind, do it like how I'm doing now. Come from a place of confidence, from a place of from a more in power position than the OCD. Do you know what I mean? Because if you come from a position of like a weak position of being scared, then your OCD is just going to get you, because you have no authority. You have to speak with authority to your mind. And then you will see that it will improve. Now, it's not going to improve magically overnight, because if you've sent, say, 200 signals of fear, every time a thought hits, say the thought hit you 200 times in one way or another. Every time something happens, you get this thought again. And 200 times you send a signal to your mind that this thought is important and dangerous and you're scared. One time saying it's not dangerous, it's not going to cure the situation. You need to do it continuously. It's not going to take 200 times, but it will take quite a few times, maybe like 10 times, 15 times of you dismissing the thought, not paying attention to it, for your mind to say, okay, maybe even if it was some sort of a situation, maybe it passed, or maybe there was no situation. Either way, there is no importance now, and I'm not going to send the thought again. So, because every time you react, and this is not just for OCD, this is for you can use this technique as well for daily life, that every time you choose to react or not react to a thought, your mind takes that to mean if the thought is important or not, and also if this type of thought is important. So say, for example, I'll give you an example, a different type of OCD, that if a person reacts to contamination OCD with one type of contaminant, at some point he or she might get a thought about a different type of contaminant and see if that triggers, like the mind will send it and see if you react with danger or with as if it's dangerous to another type of contaminant. Do you know what I mean? Because the mind is trying to ensure your safety. It's not your enemy. It's not really trying to mess with you. It feels like it's trying to mess with you, but it's really not. It's just trying to make sure that you are safe, because when you are anxious, you are sending a strong signal that you're not safe, that you're in grave danger, and that you need to solve the situation. That's how we feel when we have OCD, right? So it's important for you to speak with authority to your mind and say, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Any thought that has to do with depersonalization, I'm not buying it anymore. I'm just not. I'm moving on. I am choosing to go do this instead. So, and just coming from a position of power every day, every time the thought comes in, until it stops. And we can't really guess how many times that will take, but I'm telling you, approximately, I wouldn't say it takes half the time, but like of how long you've been getting these thoughts, but maybe a quarter of the time, something like that. You have to be realistic that although this method works really fast, it still will take some time. Now, if you want to speed this up, this is for the more kind of adventurous type of person, that if you want to speed it up, what you can do is you can bring these thoughts up on purpose. Because like we were talking about, say, like with the like 200, right? 200 is just a number I'm throwing out there, but it just gives you an example. So if you sent the wrong signal 200 times to your brain, and you want to you want to send the right signal, and you need to send it at least, say, 15 times, okay? So what you can do is you can either wait to send it to your mind, for your mind to send you a thought and then react to it, but that might take some time for you to get to how many it takes for the brain to drop this, okay? Or you can bring them up on purpose, and this will work a lot quicker, because you could actively put yourself in a situation where you're going to get anxiety. So say, for example, spend time with your loved ones, because when you spend time with them, you're going to be like, well, what if it's not real? What if it's... So the mind is going to start working that way and giving you all these thoughts. So you're bringing them up on purpose, but at the same time, you need to refuse your reaction, because when you are in that moment of the exposure, like you're exposing yourself to the feared situation, you can either follow what OCD is doing, what OCD is telling you, which is, get scared, worry about it, try to solve it, all this stuff, or you can choose not to. But if you're doing it on purpose, or actually it doesn't matter, even if you're not doing it on purpose, even if you're like just got yourself in a situation just through living daily life, you need to make sure you're sending the right signal. Because if you send the wrong signal to your mind, what happens is you start to get worse. And then if you send sometimes the right signal, sometimes the wrong signal, then it's just unnecessary suffering, because you're not really you're not really recovering. You're taking one step forward by saying, okay, it's not important. Your brain says, okay. And then you say, the next time the thought hits, you're like, oh, okay, it is important. And your brain says, okay. So you're starting to confuse it, that which one is right. It doesn't know, because it, like I said, it cannot tell by itself. It needs you to tell it. It's just a machine. It's like a traffic light. It's just like, have you ever seen like a police officer standing at the if the traffic lights are not working and it's directing traffic? That is what your brain is doing right now. It's directing traffic. Is the thought going forward or is it not going forward? But you keep sending the mixed signals, which confuses it. So make sure time after time the right signal, and you're going to get anxiety. And this is a very important point, that you are going to get anxiety. Because your anxiety right now is because in the past you reacted with fear to the situation. You cannot stop the anxiety right now for this particular now point, because your mind thinks the situation is dangerous, so it's sending you the thought and the anxiety. If right now you choose not to react to the thought and choose not to react to the anxiety, in the future it will send you less and less thoughts and less anxiety. But as of right now, there's nothing you can do about the anxiety, so you have to accept it and push through it. And that's the thing. This is very important, because that's where a lot of people kind of fall down with this stuff, is that they think, well, why am I getting anxiety? You're getting anxiety for the same reason that you're getting the thought, because your mind stopped on it and it thinks it's dangerous because you reacted with fear before. Because right in the beginning, it just sent you anxiety just to check. It had no backing, nothing to back the anxiety, right? It just said, oh, this is a scary situation. Like sometimes I hear people start having OCD thoughts because of something they saw in the news or on TV or something like that, right? That they say, well, I've never even thought of this, and this is so scary, and that gets them. But it's a new scary situation, so they react with fear. But then afterwards, that fear becomes it starts going on autopilot, So, like I said, doesn't matter if it's depersonalization or any other type of OCD, you have to treat it like the same way. That the anxiety doesn't matter, the thought doesn't matter, it's all OCD, you're having it over and over again. You need to move your attention away from this thought. And allow the anxiety to be there, allow the thought to float in and out of your mind if it wants to. You can't stop it anyway, but actively not engaging it. So not solving it, no getting reassurance from yourself or others, not researching it, nothing. This is OCD. I am putting absolutely no effort towards it. I'm moving on. So I hope this helps. Now I had a second question here. So the second question is about avoidance, and it's about contamination OCD, like fear of corrosive chemicals, so things in the house. And I don't want to read you guys full emails because there's like privacy issues and things like that, but basically the person is worried that person has a lot of items that they haven't used for years, really, and they're avoiding them because of, I'm assuming, because of these issues. So the person asks that if they cut off all of this avoidance as they tried before, it feels overwhelming, and the anxiety is exhausting. And yes, it is, and yes, it does feel overwhelming. Sorry, I'm just reading here. So, so basically, how do you stop avoidance and when it's so many things? So I would say, the way you create, because the person is asking, how do you create a hierarchy of, what to throw out and what not to throw out, and how to stop avoiding it and all of this stuff when there's so many things. And I would say specifically in your setting of being at home, the best way I would suggest tackling this is going room by room by room. So for example, start in the room that scares you the least. So we're grouping it not by items because there's so many items, but by room. So items in what room scare you the least? Say for example, in the storage room that you haven't looked for years, that's really scary when it comes to the corrosive stuff. But maybe something that's just kind of sitting around, you kind of walk by it, even though you avoid it, you still kind of walk by it all the time, so it's not as scary. So let's start with that. And just start. If you don't need it, if you know it's OCD and you're keeping it, why are you keeping this stuff? Are you keeping it because you want to keep it, or are you keeping it because OCD wants you to hold on to it for whatever reason? You know, if it's OCD, you have to throw it out. When you throw it out, you will get anxiety because your mind doesn't want to throw it out. It wants you to kind of hold it and do what you've been doing, because even though you are uncomfortable, your mind is actually very comfortable with the situation because it knows that you're safe, because you're getting anxiety, you're paying attention to anxiety, and when you pay attention, your mind takes that to mean that you are that you're protecting yourself, which is, it just thinks you're protecting yourself from something that doesn't need protecting. That's where it goes wrong. So I would say go room by room, and you can create a hierarchy list within that room if you would like as well. So create a hierarchy list of the rooms first, okay? So you're going to start with this room, then you go to this, 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 and this, okay? Then within the room, create a hierarchy of what you're going to tackle the least and what you're going to tackle first. And that way you have some sort of kind of a game plan, if you would like. So, and again, just like I said about the last person's question, right? That you will get anxiety, you will get feelings, you will feel like you're doing the wrong thing, you will feel like you still want to avoid. You have to disregard all of it, because your mind is sending you those feelings because it thinks the situation is important. So the whole thing is false. The whole thing needs to be disregarded. Okay, and then the second part of the question here, that if you have things that remind you of the OCD, and you don't want to see them and you want more, should you throw them out or should you not throw them out? To be honest with you, if it was me, I would probably throw them out. But I'm a minimalist at heart, so it's a little bit different for me. I don't like to have a lot of stuff, and especially stuff that's giving you kind of a negative, negative energy. I would throw it out because it seems like keeping things in general is an issue, um, especially if you haven't used it for years. So ask yourself, what is the last time you actually used this thing? And do you really need it in your present life? If it's some, memento from an important part in your life, or some sort of a gift somebody gave you, or something like that, right? Then maybe you shouldn't, right? But if it's just some sort of a thing, and this thing is reminding you of OCD, then why keep it? I mean, it's a personal choice. I think really right now, the problem here is keeping a lot of things because specifically of OCD. So I suspect that the reason you are asking me this, and the reason this is bothering you, is because you kind of know in your heart that you are keeping it mostly because of OCD. And I would say if that's the case, then yeah, you should throw it out. Um, get rid of it. Either live without it or get new things, and make sure. But when you get new things, make sure that you don't start falling into the same stuff. So if you feel that, because again, this is going back to the contamination, right? So, well, what if this new thing is contaminated? And so and you will get that thought. So be prepared that you will get the thought, And then when you do get it, this is silly, I'm not paying attention to it, I can't, I can't do this with all of my things and with all of my stuff, and just going about like that. Because when the thought first hits, you can choose to pay attention to it, or you can choose not to pay attention to it. The more you pay attention to it, the worse these things are going to get. So right in the beginning, it doesn't have a foothold, it doesn't have anything, like the thought is not strong, it's not ingrained in your mind yet. It's just like a what if. Hey, what if it's contaminated in some way? This is the time where you can easily get rid of it. Well, easily is a relative term, but you can pretty simply get rid of it. But as you go through and go further and further, it becomes more and more difficult to get rid of it. Get rid of the thought. So I hope this answers your question. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can email me to info@youhaveocd.com. Just label if you would like me to answer the question on air. I would prefer you to, because I can answer it in more detail than, writing it in an email. I can't write, that length of an email. But just clearly label that it's okay for me to answer, and I will answer next week or the week after that. So thank you so much for watching. If you would like more information, you can visit youhaveocd.com. I have my private recovery program there available for you guys if you would like to start recovering from OCD using my help. There's also free ebooks, or there's ebooks there for sale, and then there's free information as well. So please check that out, and thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week.